Okay, welcome to my video, a review of the TurboGrafx-16 Mini. This is a quick sloppy review, and it's actually about the cancellation of the TurboGrafx-16 Mini, which I am very happy about, and I'll tell you why in a second. The thing is, they canceled it because of the coronavirus. And the reason I think this is good is because I believe they were about to release it with the wrong price, the wrong size, and a couple of features lacking that should be in it. Even though it's improved compared to the other minis that came out, it's improved on the Sega Genesis Mini. I'm going to tell you what the first problem is that I don't like. Look at the size of this thing. It's not a mini, it's a medium. It's just too big. I might as well buy a used TurboGrafx-16. Now let me show you what I mean and why I don't like this. Okay, if you look at this in the hand, look at this. Look how big it is in his hand. And these are the other minis, the PC Engine and cores. They're a little bit smaller. But and I know that these three are to scale with one another, but they shouldn't be. They should be to the scale of the Genesis Mini, the SNES Mini, NES Mini, the Commodore 64 Mini. Now I'm going to show you something here. Oh, I didn't want to go to this video here. Now how do I get out of that? Darn, I'm going to have to close that and start over again. But yeah, I hope that there's enough time for them to start remanufacturing. Let me show you a picture of the Genesis Mini here, so you get an idea. So that's what the Genesis Mini looks like in your hand, and it seems to be at the same scale as the NES and the NES Mini. In other words, when they were the original sizes, the Genesis was slightly wider than the SNES, and so they did so. And I don't remember if the TurboGrafx-16 in real life, the original one, was bigger than the Genesis. If it was, then it should be slightly bigger than this Genesis Mini, only slightly, to look to scale. It's very important. I was completely, I wouldn't even buy it just for that reason. I literally wouldn't, because I was so happy about the TurboGrafx-16 Mini coming out. Even though it was the console back in the 90s and 80s that I wanted the least, and it wasn't that popular, for some reason it's the one that I want the most now. And my heart was floored when they didn't put three things in it. Number one, the size is wrong. It's totally wrong. You could release one that size if you want later and call it the TurboGrafx-16 Medium. I don't know. But for now, as far as the Mini's concerned, that's not a real Mini. I want to be able to fit it in my pocket the way that I can fit, this Sega Genesis Mini in my pocket, and my Commodore 64 Mini in my pocket. So let me show you another picture here. This is someone on YouTube who made their own version, 3D printed. I mean, it doesn't, I know it doesn't look as professional as a real one, but there's two things to note here. The size is correct, although I think it's a little tiny small. It should be about, I'd say about half an inch bigger on all sides. No, I mean a total of half an inch bigger in total. So a quarter of an inch in the left, quarter of an inch on the right, quarter of an inch in the front, quarter inch in the back. It just doesn't quite look right to me, but that's fine. This is about the size that the TurboGrafx-16 from Konami should be. Now here's the other thing right here that I was shocked that Konami did not take advantage of this. This Hue card slot should definitely be an SD card slot. Definitely. Okay? This guy here on YouTube did that. And he actually put games on them. Now the reason I say that they should do this is not so that you can put games on it. Of course you will. And they should have that option. It's just to have the slot, a working slot, and yes, to put games on it, and maybe have the option of taking some of the games that are actually on the console, put them on the SD card, and make the SD card bootable with that one single game. I would love that if they did that. As long as you have the rights to that game, which you do, because there's 50 games on the console, allow you to put one on the SD card and sort of simulate a boot process with an SD card. So that's two things that they didn't do. Third is the Scanline, the horrible Scanlines that they have. I can't believe that they failed at this after seeing the Genesis. It's because it's the same people doing it that did the Genesis. Now the problem with the Scanlines on the Sega Genesis Mini It's actually not a problem in a way, because it does simulate the real look of a Genesis, but through an RF connection. And if you remember back in the 80s and 90s, RF was terrible. And so they try to simulate that terrible look. Yes, I want to have that option, but I want a slightly crisper version of it too. In other words, just imagine a Genesis and a TurboGrafx-16 Mini, NES Mini, and SNES Mini, or NES in real life, all had S-video out. I want them to simulate that look, and an RGB out with Scanlines. I want all those options in my Scanline options. Specifically for the TurboGrafx-16 Mini, though, I also want the option to have the screen door effect type Scanlines, which is basically Scanlines this way and this way. That there were these certain CRTs that you could see that they had these strange looking Scanlines that look like a, you know when you open your door to the patio and you have that screen to block the mosquitoes. It had that effect, and for some reason this effect looks best on the TurboGrafx-16. So they have to include these several options for CRT filters, and you have to include the option to have them bright. Now, Sega Genesis Mini is the only one that got the 4:3 mode right, and I hope that the TurboGrafx-16 gets it right. And what I mean by that is that when you connect it to a real CRT 4:3 TV, you could make the screen fill the whole CRT, and it looks square and properly proportioned. The TurboGrafx-16 Mini needs to do that. The Genesis Mini failed in that when you have it on an HD TV and you have it by 4:3, you have these stupid borders on the sides, of course, for the speakers and little images you have, which is fine, but it also has borders on the top and bottom. They're slightly thinner borders, but they look stupid. You can't scale the image to fit the whole screen, at least, from top to bottom. It's fine to have the sides cut off because it is a 4:3 image. Very annoying, because nobody ever did a release of any game, like for Miss Pac-Man and Pac-Man are perfect examples. When they release these little joystick versions of them, it's always these fake imitations of the arcade. It's never really a real arcade where it reaches the top and bottom of the screen. Yes, I know that the TVs were tilted, but they still have to make the screen, for 4:3, make it full screen, like real full screen, that the score reaches to the very top, slightly even overscanned from top to bottom. Yes, it's going to have black borders on the sides, I understand that. Major fail there. And another thing the Genesis Mini did wrong is that if you look at the Genesis emulator called Guvcview, they have this thing where you could zoom in to the 4:3, and it zooms in to to fill the whole 16:9 screen. Yes, you get the top and bottom cut off, but the center area of the gameplay is there. Some games you can't use this, and you could play Sonic like this, and you're missing the bottom and the top of the screen. Basically this half of the score is missing, but you never use that in the game anyway because most of the action is centered. Works very well, and it doesn't look squished because it's still 4:3, just kind of zoomed in so that the sides that are empty, the black sides that are empty, get filled in. Miss Pac-Man also works very well like this. I've played Miss Pac-Man on my 16:9 laptop in this zoomed mode, and it's great because it fills the whole screen, but yet it's properly proportioned. It's not stretched to fill the whole screen. Just try it out. Go check it out. Guvcview. They should have this option. I understand there's some users who won't understand and be confused, whatever. They could turn that off. Don't turn it on, but you should have the option. As standard, it should come as the 16:9, just like all the other minis. I understand that. And I hope the TurboGrafx-16 has this option too. Hey, if possible, maybe even some mode that pans and scans from top to bottom when you have this zoomed in mode, so that it focuses on where the action is or the center of the screen. I don't know if that's possible. But if not, it's still a good option to have. Because a lot of time I hate the way that they use scoreboards on TurboGrafx-16 minis, where they don't use the full screen. They use this huge thick border with the score on it, where they could have had game pixels, with a raster, an invisible raster showing the game in the background. It's a way to cheat, really. Lazy programmers who can't take advantage of the CPU system, and they cut lines out in order to make, kind of like the Commodore 64. If you look at all the games in the Commodore 64, they're not 320 by 240. They're even smaller than that, with a little square in the middle of the screen, and they don't use all the pixels of the screen, which pisses me off when they do that. And the Amiga did it too. That was one of my pet peeves of most Amiga games. Some games used it to the full effect, the full overscan, like Pac-Mania on the Amiga. That's a properly done game. Some games I accept that it's not filling the entire screen like the Chaos engine. It's done very well because it's just a little tiny black border all around, but it's actually great. Same with Rough and Tumble. Rough and Tumble is almost like a 16:9 game on a 4:3 screen in a way, or maybe 16:10. I don't know, but that one is fine. It's just so well done that it's fine. Although I would have preferred if it filled the screen. Project X is another one that fills the screen, but it's because it's PAL. In reality, the pixels on the sides just barely reach the sides of the TV screen. But still, at least it fills the entire screen and you don't see any black borders. Okay, I've gone a little too far on this video here, but I hope the KONAMI, the fact that they stopped the production, will take this into account. And let me play the video from YouTube of this guy, and I don't remember his name, but hopefully you could find this video. It's called TurboGrafx-16 Mini Classic Custom Edition, and here it is.
Hey everyone, this is 8-Bit Flashback, and I just got done with my latest build. This is the TurboGrafx-16 Classic Edition. Let's take a closer look.
Look at it, how it looks in his hand. You know, it's just. Let me fast forward here. See?
And it's exactly half the size of the original console that was released on August 29th.
That's about the right size that they should do it.
Only had an 8.
Okay.
TurboGrafx-16 built from looking than
look at this.
Games and Nintendo games.
SD cards.
The main difference is
it's just
a big plastic shell that surrounded the game.
Great.
So that made them look very small.
That is a great thing to do. They need to do this. All right. I don't know what else to say. I just hope that KONAMI sees this video on YouTube and sees my video, I guess. They have a great opportunity. Oh, and one more thing that I forgot. One major flaw of all the minis that is just mind-boggling to me. How do they miss this opportunity? Each of these consoles, at least the TurboGrafx-16 has the option to do this right now, needs to have an online store. And the console doesn't have to have internet. I'm not suggesting they should put an Ethernet or Wi-Fi on it. I know that's more expensive. No. They need to have an online store so that with your laptop or computer you could purchase more games for the TurboGrafx-16 Mini and put it on an SD card and boot it. People want to buy these games. I will buy 50 games like this, you know, at $2.99, $5.99 even. This is just a way for them to make more money. They need to have it doesn't have to be some great store. It could be a text-based online store where you just see the name of the game. You know, just like Craigslist. It could be a simple store like that where you could buy the games with PayPal and download them and put them into your TurboGrafx-16 Mini. This was a major fail that they on the other mini consoles part. They could still probably fix this in some way. They can create that and keep supporting their Genesis Mini, NES Mini, and SNES and NES Classic, and the Commodore 64. They need to have an online store where you could purchase more games. People want to buy these freaking games. That's why they bought these consoles, in order to have legal ROMs and a legal console, and yet you guys are screwing up left and right. Because the Raspberry Pi is still better than these freaking consoles, because they have the proper Scanlines. They got all the games you want. You can put all the games on them. Yes, I understand, you know, they're not supposed to have them if you don't own them, etc., but we're willing to pay for them. That's why we're buying these consoles. I have the Genesis Mini, and I have the Commodore 64 Mini. I bought a PlayStation Classic, and I'm going to buy the other consoles as well, including the TurboGrafx-16 Mini. So please, KONAMI, do yourself a favor. You'll make more money because, you know, the TurboGrafx-16 wasn't the top-selling console, so you figure just as many people are going to want it, which is few. But trust me, people are into 8-bit and 16-bit retro consoles right now. And people are very happy that you've done a great menu system on your TurboGrafx-16 Mini. So far, it's got the best menu. But you could improve it a little bit. And like I said, the Scanlines, major. The 4:3 on a real CRT TV, that's got to happen. And most of all, the size of the console is wrong. It's got to be smaller. It's got to be a real mini, and you got to put a real SD card slot. It's got to be done. And an online store to buy more games. You can do it, KONAMI. Come on. Still have time. And yes, I know you got to do the PC Engine and the Core, whatever they're called, as well. And that's going to mean they're half the size of this little tiny thing. Fine. It has to, because, you know, the SD card slot has to be to scale. So it's fine if it's even smaller, because in real life they were smaller. They were like the half the width of the TurboGrafx-16 Mini. So that's what you got to do. Alright, so that concludes this video, and I hope Konami gets to see this. Thank you.